back, everybody, for another episode of the Wombynhood Illuminated Podcast. I'm so excited about this one. Thank you so much for being here. Claire McCauley is joining us today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. First podcast I've ever done. So
Yay! I know, because can we just talk about that for a second? So I approached Claire. And it was just one of them ones. It's like divine timing, isn't it? Because I had just came to you. I messaged Claire and was like, "Let's meet for lunch and have a wee chat.
Yeah,
I have a proposition for you." And then you were like,
I know, I was so excited because it was so, again, divine timing. But that week I had seen somebody else doing a podcast and kind of thought, "Hey, God, I wonder, like, would I ever do podcasts? Is that sort of road I would ever go down?" And like within days, you were like saying, "I'm doing a podcast, please come on." I was like, "What?" Like, it's just the way things happen, and it's the way a lot of things happen in my life. That it's like you think it and then it just comes.
Yeah, you manifest it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what better way to begin than to talk about that? Because you and I work in this world of energy and frequency and manifesting, and a lot of that comes from our private practices and our, like, what we do in public as well. So can I ask, how did that journey begin for you then into the healing world?
Well, suppose 5 years ago COVID kicked in or whatever, and I was practicing yoga before that, but just like going to a class a week and stuff like that. And I always enjoyed it and liked it. But when COVID hit, I like got more into it in the sense that there was so many classes available online. We weren't doing anything else. I wasn't working. There was just nothing to do. So every day I was doing maybe 1 or 2 classes of yoga online.
Yeah.
And everything just started to shift. And again, it just comes to like that feeling. I don't know. I can't explain the feeling. It's just something that happens to you. And I know other people who says it as well, and they're like, "No, I know what you mean." But I cannot explain what that feeling is.
Yeah.
But it just happened. Something shifted. And I knew there was more to yoga than what I was probably led to believe before, where you think yoga is exercise, you're doing it to become more flexible, to be healthier or whatever, like. But when I started to do it, and that feeling, the feeling of bliss that come with it, I was like, there's something in this, like, it's not just exercise. So therefore that was when I decided I was going to do my 200 hour, and it was simply just to learn more about yoga for me. It was nothing to do. I never ever had intentions to ever even teach a class.
Wow.
So it was like I wanted to go learn more about it and just figure stuff out, because I was so intrigued by this feeling and what was stirring inside. And it really, yoga has completely changed my life. Like, my lifestyle completely changed. And it was so funny because, like, I always would have been out at the weekend or had my bottle of wine at the weekend and all that kind of nonsense. And then that all just really organically stopped.
Right.
With no intention of ever stopping. So it changed in that sense, whereas, like, alcohol just was... I'm not saying I don't drink anymore either.
Of course.
That's not what I'm saying.
No,
but just at the way my whole relationship with alcohol changed completely.
Yeah.
And like that was like one of the biggest probably shifts in my lifestyle, whereas like there was just no drink anymore. So then the weekends I was filling my time with like going to yoga things, or going and climbing a mountain, or going and dipping in a lake or the sea, or and like that all came hand in hand with the yoga too. Like, I think, like, because it's, I don't know, that nature thing that it's like bringing you back, like, isn't it? Aye.
It's like why I love yoga and any of these practices, it's bringing you back into your body. And when you come back into your body, and forgive me folks, because if you've listened to other episodes you'll have heard this mentioned several times, but it's what I'm passionate about people knowing, is when you connect to your body, you're reconnecting to your wildness, that you're a wild animal, a domesticated wild animal.
Yeah.
And when you connect to your wildness, you want to connect more to the wild. So you want to get back out into nature. You want to connect to that from which we all come.
Yeah.
And that's where that feeling of bliss, you realize, oh God, that feeling of bliss exists outside of these 4 walls. It doesn't, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can have bliss at home. I'm not saying that you can't find bliss at home having a Netflix night.
Yeah.
Everything's balanced,
Yes.
but there's just something about being in nature that resets your whole state.
Oh,
I mean, there's science to it. We know this now with
yes.
grounding, and
Aye.
it changes the frequency of your body and all the rest energetically. But there's a spiritual element to it as well, the mystical.
Oh, like 100%. I would say to me, nature, and it comes back then to that thing. Yoga. I'm like stuttering and stammering here. Sorry.
You're okay.
Like it brings me back then to you as well. I was very Catholic all my life. Well, I was born into that. That's what where life brought me and do that. But like I don't practice Catholicism, and I never was that under my religion. I was like kind of remove myself even from it. But then coming into yoga brought me really back to God. Even though I still don't associate myself much with being a Catholic or anything like that. Yeah. But to me, I see God in a whole different light now, and how God is and what God is. Like to me, it's just changed all that, and I'm probably more in touch with God now than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
But like people talk about God and they think about this man, and whereas I believe God's in everyone.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes.
You know, and that comes back to nature then as well. You know, so it's like that full circle of like just learning what you are, who you really are.
Yes.
You know, like we're not our mind, we're not our body, we're not, you know what I mean? We're so much more than what we think we are.
Yeah. I liken it to the Russian doll. When you remove all the layers of conditioning of what you've been told that you are and who you are, the ego and the sense of identity and culture, and there's all these layers, like you're Irish, you're Northern Irish, or your hair color, or your sex, female, male, like or your job, or like all this.
Even
bullshit.
your name.
Even your name, your
like,
surname, your family name, or your religion, and it's all nonsense.
Aye,
it's not the truth, the naked truth, as we were talking about.
And another thing that is what yoga does, like that's when you start studying the philosophy of yoga, then it's like yoga is like burning away all these untruths of who you are, who you're not like. So it's like bringing you back to that person that deep down person of who you are, revealing the truth of you to who you are like.
You said about it helped you define God. What is your daily practice?
My daily practice is probably my most frequent and consistent one would be definitely mantra.
Okay, can you tell me a wee bit, what is a mantra?
So mantra, it's just like, it can be a phrase you repeat over and over again. And it's just like to like reaffirm, or it's like a prayer. It's almost like prayer, but you're just maybe using a few short words and you're just totally repeating it constantly. But there's different forms of mantra. Then you have like mantras where they might be a wee bit longer, and then you have the bija mantra, which you would do with your beads, where you have 108 beads, your malas. So you do that. So they'll be like short kind of mantra. But
can you give me an example of a mantra?
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah
Shivaya.
Shivaya.
Aye.
And what does that mean?
So it's like it's for removing the ego from yourself, to just let you like be your best possible version of yourself. Taking that, like I know we all have ego, and we need ego in certain things, and it plays a big part in our lives. But just so that ego doesn't take over. Yes. You know, so that you're not away living somewhere where you shouldn't be living, or thinking things you shouldn't be thinking.
Bringing you back into the present,
back into you,
into being, rather than this version of doing. Say it again. Om Namah.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Aye. So it's after Shiva. Shiva's the god of yoga.
Oh, okay.
So that's her bija mantra, or his bija mantra, sorry.
So do you know, can you tell us a wee bit about, because I know we hear yoga, and like you and I are both passionate about understanding the spiritual aspect of the practice of yoga, because there is a misconception, and a lot of people are doing yoga for the physical benefits, which are great, but there's still this disconnect from what it can do for you on an emotional and spiritual level. And there's a lot of the world don't understand, or don't even know that yoga is actually a spiritual practice. So can you tell us a little bit about yoga itself? Because there's people who who may be listening or watching, so hi if you're watching, who don't know anything about yoga.
Aye.
You know what I mean? You hear the word yoga, it's a lot more well known now, obviously, but there's a lot of people still don't know what it is.
Well, the word yoga in itself is union, like union with oneself, union with everything, one
With
is
the
all.
divine.
Yeah. So that's really what then where yoga's taking you, like back to yourself, coming back to that, taking all away them truths, and like the philosophy goes way back. The sutras, I think maybe they were wrote maybe over 500 years ago, so that was the first time it was ever wrote down on paper. But before that, it was still like it was all done by word of mouth. So that was like the guru just passed it on, and then the students, suppose, became the guru at a point, and they just like passed the word down, and that's how it was taught before that. So you have the sutras. The Yoga Sutras is one of the, like I would say, like they would call them to like a Bible type thing, coming from other religions. So you have the sutras, you have the Bhagavad Gita, different books with different messages, but the messages again all come back to like the one. The sutras is quite nice because it's got the sutras. A sutra is just a thread, so everything's small and concise, where you can like try and like keep these wee snippets of information. And even in the sutras, there's asanas when we're doing postures in yoga. The only asana in the sutras is a seated position. That's the only one asana that's in the Yoga Sutras.
It's prayer, it's meditation. Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's not like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika then has a couple more postures.
The what is it?
Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
And
it's a book as well.
It's a book, okay.
It's a book as well, just off like all the yoga teachings, and because it's so vast. There's like so much that I haven't even touched on yet, and things that I would love to delve into myself.
Of course, it's a lifelong journey of learning.
Lifelong. And there's so many different avenues you can take with it, like, and maybe you just want to go down a certain route and stay there. Because you have different types of yoga as well. You have Bhakti yoga, Karma yoga.
And what's the difference? Do you know the difference in those?
Well, Bhakti is yoga of devotion. So like my mantra and like kirtan and stuff like that will be all like Bhakti, where you're like you've got devotion to maybe like a god or a certain.
I've heard of kirtans. That's like the singing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's lovely because that's chanting. That's all kirtan
prayer.
is too. It's prayer
and
and it's so uplifting. If you've ever been to a kirtan, honest to God, it's the energy. It's the energy it brings. It's just unreal. How you feel after. It's like how I feel after doing yoga.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same feeling, just through a different practice. It's as I say, it's just so vast. There's so much out there to do with yoga, like.
And so you were obviously practicing yoga yourself originally, so you were going as just like anybody, as a student to somebody that was a teacher of yoga.
Yeah.
And then you decided to do
your teacher training.
Right. And how long did that take, your initial training?
The first 200 hours I did with John Bell in Derry, and that took almost a year. So from January to like October, I think it was. So it ran, say, like the 10 months anyway. And it definitely for me was the right path, because if I'd have done a condensed one for my 200 hour, I don't think I ever would have taught.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that would have came with it. But by doing it quite slow, and by the time October came, John did encourage you. He was like, go out and just take a class for practice and all, because obviously you have to do do this to pass your course and all that there. And he was like, it'll just give you a bit of confidence and all. So I decided, I went on to Holistic Haven and just did a wee class, and it was just for friends and family, and I wasn't even charging them any money to begin with. It was like very just for me to practice. And from the day and hour I started that, I just have never stopped teaching.
Wow.
And everything just always came to me as well, because I'm a full-time hairdresser as well. So I never intentionally went out looking for any work, but so many people just kept approaching me about doing work here or doing this or doing that. And like I teach now 4 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And I
how are you doing both? That is a skill in its own, because like you're a hairdresser, but you're self-employed, like you're like it's an entrepreneurial journey in its own, like.
Yeah.
But this is something again we have in common, is finding that balance of this work that you love, that you want to birth into the world, that you are passionate about and that lights your soul on fire. And then the other work that you have to do because it's paying the bills.
Yeah. But don't get me
finding the
wrong,
balance.
I really do think too, like, because I like being a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't like I don't mean I don't like, but I know the real busy side of things.
Course, yeah.
I really like to take a step back from that because my body can't do it anymore. I'm just getting too old for just being on your feet and constant all day. It's just doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
I'd be in complete butts after a really busy day. But I really feel like there's a slight crossover, in the sense that, like, because I'm so close to a lot of my clients now, and just the talk that we can have, the chats that we can have, and what some people have maybe learned from me through my yoga journey, and I've like maybe encouraged some people to maybe open themselves.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You know, so I do feel like it's kind of nice because I feel like I'm able to bring that to the hairdressing as well.
It's funny because when you're working in a different field to the spiritual work, I suppose, you know, there are people, like I was saying to you earlier, like I met a gentleman like a week ago or 2 weeks ago now, and he, you know, we just talk about these practices like off the bat, like assuming everybody knows these things, and somebody mentioned Reiki, and this guy was like, "What's Reiki?" And I was like nearly fell off my seat being like, how do you not know? Like, it, just because it's now so widespread, it's prevalent everywhere. And then you forget there are people, you know, everybody's journey is different, and there are people who mightn't even have heard of yoga, which you, to my mind again, I'll be like, how? Because it's like now yoga is almost like, it's like going to the gym. You know what I mean? Like it's everywhere, but there are people, or they've heard of it, but they don't know anything about it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And like I knew very little about yoga before I started yoga, other than the fact that it was a stretching, stretching, or like just becoming more supple, more flexible, whatever. And that's what I thought yoga was myself, like back before I realized. And like, even though before I even knew the philosophy, because I practiced it every day, I felt the shot. The yoga came to me. Like, do you know what I mean? I didn't. I knew there was something more, like, because of the feeling that I had. And I do feel like once people start practicing, especially if they're going to maybe do it every day and have that practice in their life, it comes whether you know anything about yoga or not.
So and I love this because this feeds really well into my passion, which is embodiment work. Yeah. Because to me, I'm always saying it's through the body. People, like same as you grew up in a Catholic household, your spiritual journey was to ascend, to connect to God, to the divine. It was always external to you. It was always looking outside of you, or looking up, you know, working from the heart chakra up, you know, up all the time. And my experience through embodiment is that by going down into the body, going into the body, being embodied, is where the ascension comes from. Like the deeper you go into the body, the deeper the roots you're spreading for you to grow higher to the divine, if that makes sense. It's like, it's through this path. Yeah. And like the more embodiment of a practice you do, which is like yoga, the spiritual opening happens naturally and organically because it exists within the body.
Even if you don't will it or mean it to happen, it just comes. Yeah. Because that's what you're doing. Like you're moving all these energy centers, you're clearing pathways.
It's funny because I was chatting to a colleague because you were coming on about yoga, and it was a guy, and he was sharing about how, again, did not really pay attention to the spiritual practices at all, was going for stretching. It would be somebody that likes to go to the gym, and he had a real like spiritual awakening experience in his gym class, and it was doing a hip stretch. You know, I don't want to say whatever move it was, you probably would know, but he was opening his hips, and he saw. He had all this like visionary experience, which he kind of was like a wee bit like, whoa, what is happening? Aye. Because of what was stored energetically and emotionally in his hips. He was feeling emotions arise as much as anything. And then he was like having inner vision, like visualizing things. And he says it really threw him through a loop in the moment in a good way.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of really opened him into spiritual practice. And he was like, I want it. And I can see I want to do more of this. And he's now talking about doing his teacher training.
Wow.
So, and I'm like, now I get, like, that's an example of what I mean. Oh, it's like, I get it now.
Yes.
I get that this is accessing, excuse me, something deeper.
Absolutely. And that's because when I teach yoga as well, I don't try to push anybody into anything. I don't want to, like, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything or be anything, but I just feel like if I go teach yoga, if something is meant to awaken within somebody when they're there or through their own practice, then at home, that's their journey.
Yes.
It's not up to me to push anything in anybody.
Yeah.
You know.
Everyone's on their own journey.
Aye.
Like, you arrived to your awakening exactly as you were meant to.
Yeah.
When you were meant to.
Aye.
And so let's just talk about that, because your journey, so you went and you studied with John.
Yes.
But the next part of your journey, I just love, I find it so fascinating.
Yeah.
So where did you go next?
I went to India. Yeah.
Wow.
So that came about, I followed Talia Sutra, she's called, you'll find her on Instagram if anybody's looking for her. And I just loved her teachings and her way. She's so authentic, and she's a true yogi, like, and she's been teaching yoga for many, many years, and she has loads of experience. And I don't know, you connect with people. You'll always find teachers who you'll connect more with. It's the same with anything in life, you know. You'll find certain people you're like, oh, I really like their class. Oh, maybe not so much. And then you'll connect more with someone else.
Yeah.
Same thing. So with Italia, there was just something that always drew me there, like. And then I won a scholarship on Facebook for a 30-hour, because she's like specializes in backbending, so she's got the backbending method.
Wow.
So I won her scholarship and I did her 30 hours.
Oh, where's she from?
She's American originally.
Oh wow, that was amazing,
yeah.
Claire. That's so cool.
She's from Israel originally, then her family moved to America, so she was reared in America, but her and her husband now live in Portugal with their 2 children. So I won the scholarship, and when I went on it, she, even just the way the 30-hour was done and the way she taught, and this was all on Zoom.
Wow. Okay.
So we had like all different types of teachers on there, like teaching different things for the 30 hours, and I just really loved it. Then she announced, I was like, I would love to go and do a training with her. And at the time, she was only offering 200 hours. And I contemplated even going just doing another 200 hour with her. Because she would have travelled around the world and did it, maybe like one in France, one in Italy and all this. And then she released that she was doing a 300 hour in India, Rishikesh, India. And Rishikesh is the... Hold on, let me get the words right here.
The spiritual home.
Yeah, of yoga. It's the capital of yoga. So, like, when we first got there, she was like, welcome to Disneyland for yoga, or Disneyland for adults for yoga, because that's what it's like. It's just like yoga everywhere, arm signs everywhere. It's like, but so whenever it come up, I was like, I want to go there, I want to do this, like, and I was like, it's a month long in India, and I was like, oh my god, but I'd have to go myself, and of course all these different things, and it's all like money story. And like, and like, oh shit, and I was like, no, I'm doing it, that's it. So I booked it, and I went, and I had the most profound experience of my life, honestly. Even just the people I met on the course, the amount of things I learned off them, and what I did learn there is like the level of yoga almost everywhere else is way higher. I feel like it's only beginning here.
Yes.
I feel like it's only really taking off here now, and
That's
people is only starting to realise that yoga's more than exercise, whereas, like, I'm not saying other people haven't felt what I felt
of
here
course.
by
No,
any
I
means, but I feel like on a greater mass of people, it's growing, and people are starting to realise that there's way more to it than just getting on a mat and stretching.
Yeah.
But that, like, when it's the same when I went to India, that's what I learned most about that side of yoga, is that we're behind, but we're catching up, like,
well,
you know.
Ireland and stroke Northern Ireland is kind of a little bit behind in nearly all things because of we were a closed community to the rest of the world for so long due to the conflict and because of the belief system here as well, because I know we've discussed this before, that there is people who believe like that yoga, if they're very strict in their beliefs with their religion, that, you know, yoga is not Catholic, so therefore you don't practice yoga,
Yeah.
because it is a spiritual practice at the end of the day. And so if it's not in alignment, you know, and there's misunderstandings and sometimes misinterpretations of what yoga is as
Yeah.
well, because of that, which is unfortunate. But I mean, everyone's on their journey, so
Yeah, everybody is
whatever
their
works
own-
for you,
yeah.
and that's perfectly fine, of course. But yeah, I feel that too, and you can even see that, like, getting a yoga class back in the, say, even 10 years ago was not as easy as it is now. And in fact, yoga wasn't even always in, you know, like the local council centres. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have got a yoga class in a local council centre, and now a recreational centre, I mean,
Yeah.
and now...
But Riversdale, I would teach in Strabane. I would teach in there, I just once a week or whatever. But when they first approached me to cover a class or whatever, because the two of the teachers that were teaching in there they had two teachers. They were taking a summer off, so they approached, I think it was me and Kathy, and we were like, "Aye, Graham, we'll cover them." And then they asked us would we stay on because the classes were so popular. And we were like, "Aye." I think there's 8 yoga teachers in there now.
It's like, look at that. And that's only in the space of how many
maybe
years?
a
Like,
year and a half, 2 years. And it's still all different types of yoga. You have yin yoga, restorative yoga, and even Joanne Gallagher's in there doing mindfulness. So
shout out to Joanne.
Yeah, they're doing mindfulness in there. Like
That again is so new, which is...
yeah.
For any of the American listeners, are going to be like, what? Mindfulness was new to this, like, community setting. But yeah. Well, welcome to Ireland, folks. But, like, I mean, as in, for it to be in the mainstream, to me, that's the mark of the mainstream, isn't it? Once it comes into, like, a government or council paid, like, facility, then it's now mainstream. And that's how long it's took for these freaking practices to become mainstream. Like,
but it's just crazy how busy the yoga and all them classes are in there, and people can't even get into them, and they're scolding because they can't. I know,
because I have the app, and it's like the minute it goes live, you have to be on booking your class to get it.
It's amazing.
I know, and it is
and
actually
the fact
amazing.
that it's all different teachers, I think, is really amazing too, because it's got that. Because as I say, everybody's going to connect differently to different teachers. Exactly. So it's just got that broadness there where
and
if
everybody's
you don't like
class,
one teacher, you can try another teacher and see how you feel, you know.
And every single class is booked out. Yeah. Like everyone for every teacher, folks. Like it's really hard, which is brilliant. It's great to see.
It's amazing. It's so good.
So you went to India.
Yes.
Tell us a wee bit about that. What about a culture shock or what going to India?
Like, honestly, like, I wasn't afraid going, like, because I knew I was going to a group setting and I would be safe in the group setting and all that. But, like, you know, before you go, everyone's like, oh, be so careful, because India's like this, it's like that, and, you know, it's got the highest thing of rape and this and that, and people put the fear in you before you even get there. Like, you're like, okay. But honestly, and I don't know if it's because where I was, and I was only in Rishikesh in India, so I can't speak for any other region of India, but I never felt safer in my life. No one even looked at me crooked when I was there. Honestly, they're so warming, and like, they're just, oh my God, like, they're just lovely people, and their intentions is all so great. And now because it's a holy city, there's no meat in it, and there's no alcohol in it, so there's no...
In the whole city?
In the whole city.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
I was going to say, what other energy would you expect? It's a city of prayer.
Yeah.
It is a holy
and honestly,
city.
Yeah, so they do these, they're called pujas. I think that's the right name for it. I might need to double check that. Well, we did pujas for opening up a thing. It's like a prayer thing, like almost like a mass type style thing. Yeah. And they do the arti then down along the Ganga River. So everybody comes out, and the Swami from the Paramount Nikatan, it's the ashram. So he comes out and he says the prayer. I'm going to say mass, like, but it's not mass.
Ceremony.
It's their ceremony.
Yeah.
And they have fire, and everybody passes around the flame, and they're pouring the flames over them and putting their flames in the Ganga then, and wee flowers, you know, and they're singing and they're chanting, and it's so moving, like, so powerful. Like, and I know that might not be for everybody, but honestly, it was just an unbelievable experience.
The all of this kind of ceremony, sacred, holy, ritual work.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in other episodes too. If you've never experienced it, it is so hard You have to be, it's like all these things.
Yeah.
You have a brilliant holiday and you're remembering something. It's like, oh, you had to be there. You know, that's just like, experience is the ultimate thing in life, isn't it? It's only through embodying the thing, experiencing it, that you can really understand it. And a lot of these experiences, especially awakening experiences, it's like when you find somebody, like you and I, for example, when you find somebody who understands because they have experienced it, you're like, oh, there's one of my own.
Yes.
They get it. They understand what it is to have this like life-changing, spiritual, emotional, physical, very visceral experience. And so if you've never experienced anything like this, and you're listening to this episode, I extend an invitation to you. If you're feeling the, as I call it, the wee, like, the ick, you know, that like, it's safe within your body, that feeling. I mean, if it's a complete shutdown, it's a no for you, if you know what I mean. But sometimes you get that, it's like the wee bit of nerves, like the wee, which is also can be excitement. I extend the invitation for you to feel that and step into that and try something. If you've never been to a yoga class, try one, especially if there's one where, like yourself, Claire. So if you're in the Strabane area, call into Claire's class. If you're in Ireland, folks, and you're near a place called Strabane, call in. But no, where there are teachers who have a yoga class and then it's over and that's it.
Yeah.
And then there's the likes of yourself, and John does this, and and that's a shout out to John Bell from Derry, who is was your teacher. Shout out to John, because it's important for us to mention our mentors, you know, and acknowledge them.
Without them, we're nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Passing on that wisdom and knowledge is so important. But you know, they're grounded in the spiritual practice, like yourself, and like at the end of your class, you have that connection into soul. And I love that like slowing down and really dropping back into the body and back into the heart and back into the being and the soul, because it's such an important part of the practice. You know what I mean?
I really try to relay that in my practices, like, because that's what I love about it.
Yes.
And that's sort of all I can teach. Like, I can't teach people things that I don't love or that I don't like, you know. So, like, obviously everything in my classes, things that I practice myself. And sometimes my classes can be really slow. Some days they can be that wee bit more challenging and harder. And I think it's nice to have a mix as well. But I feel like it's all part of that journey of, like, just again moving inward. And another thing I love to preach in my classes, it does not matter how flexible you are.
Yes.
That has got zero to do with yoga. Like, if you can't even sit down, it doesn't matter. Come and stand and do what you can. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, the people that come to my classes just amaze me all the time, and they're just unbelievable. You know.
One of the things that you said to me early on when we met, early on in our journey, which I really found inspiring for me as a yogi student, was that you told me about how you being a teacher and you're doing it a couple of times a week. One day you can do something, a stretch or a move or what would you, it's not a stretch or a move, what's it called? An asana or a pose. Yeah. There we go. And it's a breeze. And then the very next day it's like, oh my God, I'm tight, you know. And like, to me, and then I'm like, so you're the yoga teacher and you're experiencing that. And what I love about that is it doesn't matter how flexible you are, because it's bringing you back into your body, and it makes you so aware how come today that was a struggle for me. Yeah. Whereas yesterday, especially if you have a daily practice, and this is the same for any embodiment practice, by the way.
Well, especially being a woman as well. Like, we have that cycle in our life that, you know what I mean? And every week's different. Yes. And that comes through in your body as well. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
I love that you mentioned that, because, again, it's even noticing the conversation you're having in your head towards yourself at these different points in your cycle, and how compassionate you are or not. Yes.
You're you know not what being I mean? Very nice to yourself.
No, and you're like, why? Or getting frustrated with yourself. But even if it's 2 days, like one day apart, and it's like, well, what has changed? Oh, that stressor has happened in the last 24 hours. Yeah. and how you're carrying that in your body. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you're the same, but daily practice, the art of routine, it is an art to show up routinely for yourself in daily practice.
Absolutely.
And it's so hard. But we've talked about this saying, the work, before in previous conversations, and like the ultimate work is loving yourself, and that is the daily practice. It's saying, right, I'm going to show up for myself every single day, days that I don't want to. And once you get on the mat and you get to the other side of it, you'll be like, I'm glad I did that now. I am glad I did that now.
You never regret it.
No.
You never regret going to a yoga class or getting on your mat and moving or meditating or chanting or whatever it is.
It's getting there, though.
It's getting there. And that's the human in us. Like, and we're all the same. And that's what I mean. I don't like to think that some people think because I'm a yoga teacher that you have all this stuff worked out and you're this type of person and you're that type of person. No, I'm just the same as you. Like, I'm no different. Like, in my class on Thursday night there, I was doing a balancing posture and I fell out of it. But that's okay because I'm human and like I can't do it perfect either. You know, I'm just here doing my job. And one of the girls says, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you fall out of that." I was like, but it's okay. Like, I'm human.
The
like,
ultimate permission. She fell out of it.
Yeah, so it's okay. It's okay. But I'm like, it's okay. Like, we're all just here doing the same thing. I'm no different from any of you down there. You know what I mean? I'm just guiding you along as you go. That's all.
Well, I want to thank you for that, because when you said that to me, that unlocked something in me. You know, when you said to me, like, well, like, literally I could have done that yesterday and it was hard for me today, and I was like, oh, there you go. Because we do put people on pedestals, and we do think, and social media doesn't help with these things, because, and there are people who are exceptional yogis who can do incredible things with their bodies, but even they experience this. It's not like every day is I am supple and ready to go every day.
I know.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? Is the prayer of bringing you back into your body, to tap in.
Coming back to like being the flexible whatever, because I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm that flexible at times. Like, most of the time I don't. Like, I've still a lot of work to do within my own body, like working towards things and all this. But when I was in India, our anatomy teacher, she was like, "Who's got tight hamstrings?" I was like, "Me, I have tight hamstrings." So she brought me up and she was like showing it, and she goes, "Fold forward," and I fold forward, and she was like, "I thought you said you had tight hamstrings," and I was like, "I do," and she was like, "No, you don't. You're just not a contortionist." She was like, "You do not have tight hamstrings." And I was like, and everybody was all like, "Hey, you don't have tight hamstrings." But like, it's because I'm like, and now the level of the way people could move, and the majority of the other people in my class in India was like, was one of the things that kind of almost nearly put me off going.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because they were like contortionists, they can handstand, headstand, fold into a pretzel. They, you know, they're like, they're level 10 yogis, like, you know what I mean, like, and I mean in the sense of like flexibility and stuff, but like when it boils down to it, my yoga's every bit as strong as theirs.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's not about the flexibility at all. That's not what the practice is.
I was so worried about people judging me and looking at me and thinking, why is she here? She should. Nobody, not one person made me feel that way when I was there, but then they're on the same journey.
Exactly.
And they obviously understand that too, that it's not about how flexible you are. And, you know, so I just feel like that's a wild important message to people.
Massively important.
You know, because people say to me, "I'd love to start yoga, but I'm just not flexible enough."
Or I'm too old.
Yes. In John Bell's class today, there used to be a woman and she was over 80, and I swear, like...
And she put you to shame.
Put us all to shame. But she kept moving.
Yes.
She did what she could. End off. That's all you need to do.
Jason has this saying, I can't remember who actually said it originally, but it's not that you get old. What is it? You don't get old from what is it?
I think
you don't stop moving because you've got old. You get old because you've stopped moving.
100%.
Yeah.
Aye.
And so, but anyway,
that's
a side note. But no, I love that, because there is a part of going into yoga, into a class where you're like, I remember going to my first class of John Bell's and being like, and I was like straight away disclaimer going, this is my first class.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not my first class, it's my first class with you, John, and I know about you and your reputation goes before you. And he just laughed at me, like, but I was like, so I don't expect myself, but again, and you always are your own worst enemy and critic, aren't you? I was more flexible than I thought. I'd be like, I'm not flexible, and then next thing.
And I feel like John's so good at doing that too, but bringing that out of you, like it lets you know that you can achieve so much more than you think you can.
He tried that first class to get us to do headstands. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? It was class, but I would not, in a million years, I wouldn't have even thought about it. But oh my God, the sense of mastery and everything I had after that, I was like, I'm going to try and do a headstand now at home, because he showed you how to build it.
He gave you the foundation.
Oh my God, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, India.
Yeah.
Just to go back to India.
I know, I keep getting sidetracked.
I know, so do I. Well, not really. It's all related. But I'm just thinking, from talking about headstands, I mean, there's obviously a spiritual aspect to why we do all these different asanas.
Yeah, asanas.
Like asanas. Sorry, asanas. What was there any, like, was there a particular lesson that you got in India that just blew your mind, that you were like, whoa?
Well, the yoga also has a thing called the 8 limbs.
Okay.
And like that's your basis of yoga, and that's where yoga basically stems from. It's all in the Yoga Sutras, and it's really, really, if you're interested in yoga, I would highly recommend go and look into the 8 limbs. Okay. Because that's where you start.
What are the 8 limbs?
So the 8 limbs is the yama, niyama. I'm gonna have to get my book.
Don't worry. That Jason asked me one day, like, I'm like, your sixth sense, you know, we have six senses. So what are the senses? I'm like, sight, sound.
Yeah, I know. No, I think I remember. So you have the yamas and the niyamas. So it starts off with them, and like so you have 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. Okay. So the niyamas is all about you, about like how you look after your body and contentment within yourself, and just like things like that. Then the yamas is like you're in the world, how you're kind of giving out to the world, like ahimsa, non-harm, things like this, you know. So you have the yamas, niyamas, and then I think it's asana next, which is your movement, and then you have pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana.
So is that breath? Is one of them breath?
Yeah, pranayama's
breath. Yeah.
And then dharna, and then samadhi. Okay. Right, I might have missed one there. But that's the basis of it. Like, so it's.
So the 8 limbs is basically how a holistic life, how it covers all the different journey of yoga. Yeah, so it's taking you through a prayer journey of all the different aspects of life.
And the end samadhi is bliss. Oh. That's what samadhi is.
And that's where you end, liberation. When you go through it all. Yeah. Freedom.
So, but what I realised when I was in India, but like I obviously through my 200 hour, I did the 8 limbs, and I learnt about them then, and I knew all about them, and I don't know why I didn't have the realisation before, but in India I had the realisation that my yoga journey probably started 16 years ago. Because the yamas and the niyamas is things I started to practice way back then. Then the asana came.
So tell me, so what were you practicing 16 years ago?
So I was in Australia for a year travelling, and I come back, and my sister had this book in the house called The Secret. We all know The Secret.
We do. Well, no, let's not make that assumption. There's this book called The Secret. Check it out. Google.
So it was definitely a gateway. Yeah. So I read The Secret, and that things just, it's like, right, things are
the shifting. Law of attraction, that's what it talks about, folks. It's about
it opened me up to the law of attraction, and how you think what you are, and what you think you bring to you, and all that. So that was definitely the start of my journey, when I think back now. And then I don't know if anybody's aware, but Lorna Byrne, do you know Lorna Byrne? Yeah. So then my aunt was huge into Lorna Byrne.
Lorna Byrne would talk to angels, and she wrote a book, Angels in My Hair, isn't
Angels in My Hair, Stairway to Heaven, Hope and Prayer or something. She's got a few books, but they're all beautiful books as well. And when I started reading her books, and again she talked about angels and all that, and I loved all that, like, you know, could really connect with it all. So again, it was just taking me more into that spiritual side of life. Yes. Rather than just like,
what you see.
yeah.
It's taking you beyond into
Yeah.
the past the
So
veil.
I suppose then my journey started really, you know, because that
yeah.
started me, that shifted my mind in that sense, where I was thinking, my friends used to call me the book. Because I used to say, girls, I'm telling you now, you need to think this way, because this is what the book said. And they're like, oh, here she goes again with the book. And like maybe 10 years later, they're all like, oh, now we know what you're talking about. You know, back then they just laughed at me. Like, but I wasn't afraid to say it either. Like, I don't care. Things like that don't bother me. But so like that was probably a real catalyst and the real start for me.
Yeah.
Even though the deeper stuff didn't come to the last 5-6 years, you know.
Yeah.
And like again, I've probably got years and years and years of other stuff to learn and uncover and
Of course.
to grow and all that. Like,
But like we say, it's a lifelong journey of learning.
lifelong.
And I think when you find your particular, not modality, but like your lane of and style and the thing that lessons that resonate with you. So yoga as a path resonates with you.
Absolutely.
And so when you find that, and these paths, you always discover that they're ancient. They're around, like yoga's been around for thousands of years. And so when you find this ancient path, that there's ancients worth of lessons, there's thousands of years old lessons to learn. Like, and I love that because and then it is a lifelong journey. And every lesson, I mean, that's why myself and Jason have this, I don't know, for those who have a camera, for those who are watching the camera, you can see I have a spiral tattoo. And Jason and I got those together to represent about our own spiritual journey of awakening or learning or connecting, because it is a spiral. You deepen and you pass the same lessons, and I'm sure it's the same with all of your practice. Like every day you're doing different asanas and you're revisiting the same practice or particular posture, but it's deepening you and you're spiraling around past and you're learning something different every single day. And this is, so there's a journey of learning. Like you have to go through the 8 limbs, and you can go through that over and over and over again for the rest of your life, and it just keeps, it's like finding a really good book. And then you read it again a year later, and because of where you are in your own journey of growth and expansion and life experience, and when you reread it, you see it through different eyes and you hear it through a different voice. And I love that. I love it when you find your path.
Yeah. Well, like because there's so many different styles of yoga as well. You have Ashtanga yoga, but like Ashtanga yoga is the same practice every day. They have different levels of it. So you have the primary series, then the second series, third series, fourth series. But like when you start, if you're in Ashtanga yoga, you get up every morning, you do your practice before you leave the house. The only day they take a rest day is, and I think it's a full moon.
Okay.
And that's the only day they'll take a rest day. It's like such a strong willed practice, and it's the same practice, it's the same sequence every single day until you feel ready to move on to the second series, where it's like obviously a stronger practice and body wise, you know.
I love it. So there's different schools of yoga essentially.
Absolutely. My lineages come from Ashtanga yoga and Ghosh yoga.
What are those?
So Ashtanga is what I just explained there. It's like
the
they
practice.
It's the practice. You have the primary, and the Ghosh one's the same. So Ghosh, when I was in India, Talia taught us through the lineages of Ashtanga and Ghosh, because she mainly trained in Ghosh, which is, you've probably heard of Bikram yoga more so.
Yes, Bikram, yeah.
So Bikram,
although I don't know what it is. To me,
so
before this conversation, yoga was yoga.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know, and I know a little bit because of Tantra that yoga is a Tantra. It comes from Tantra. It's a Tantra practice. But beyond that, I know that the Tantras is where all of these things came from, because the books, the Tantra, people hear the word Tantra and they just think of Tantra as we know it now in the Western world. But Tantra is a singular, one singular practice, that particular Tantra we're talking about with sacred sexuality, but it's one of so many. There's like over 100 Tantras texts in total. And these are coming then, the yoga practices then come from different tantras or different practices, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And that's then where it spirals down from.
Yeah. And then obviously you have different teachers that have like developed different things, and this is where like so I'm calling it gauche because so Bikram was a yoga teacher. I don't know if you know anything about Bikram at all.
I don't.
So he does hot yoga. You've heard of hot yoga where
Yes,
they do it in a really hot room.
Yes.
So that is also the same sequence. So if you go to a hot yoga, it's the same sequence every time you go.
Okay.
So it's like you're practicing the same sequence over and over again.
Okay.
So it's like repetition.
Yes.
So that you obviously like your body's opening up and you're getting used to it, and you can just concentrate more on what you're actually doing, things like that. But then Bikram got himself into a bit of bother.
Right, okay. So he was a guru, was he?
He was the guru.
Right.
So he like kind of...
Is he from India?
He was from India.
Right, okay.
But he took his practice from Ghosh.
Right, okay.
So Ghosh was his guru in India.
Okay.
And Ghosh is also...
So Ghosh is the name of the guru?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Ghosh, so you'll...
And then it becomes Ghosh Yoga because that was his lineage.
That was his lineage.
Right.
So, but Talia calls it more Ghosh because she just kind of tried to wipe Bikram out because of the stuff he done.
Okay, right.
Because he just didn't do very nice stuff. He was
there was a bit of scandal. There was a bit of scandal around Bikram.
Like,
right?
and it's kind of disheartening because you think these yoga guys and they're... But like he's not the only yoga boy to do it either. Like, but then I feel like that's the human in people also.
Yes, yeah.
Like they'll not just proves that nobody's perfect.
Of course.
No matter how much they're doing and all
these
that.
practices. Well, it's just how much authentically you are connecting.
Yeah, it's a personal thing. Like
it
you
is,
know,
absolutely. Yeah.
So but anyway, so that's why she always calls it the Ghosh lineage rather than Bikram. But it's more widely known as Bikram really throughout the Western world. But so when we were in India, we did that. So there's like 26 postures. It's called the 26 and 2. There's 26 postures in it and 2 breathing techniques. So you do every posture twice.
Wow.
It's like amazing practice as well. You know, it's lovely.
I just think when you get into a flow of a practice and you ground yourself deeper and deeper daily through a practice, then it becomes less about the posture. It becomes more about the posture, actually, in that you know it so well, then it's like, let's deepen in more.
Absolutely.
Let's do the breath
and I think that's why they do it that way, you know. So it's like, here's your sequence, just get good at it.
Yes.
You know, get deeper in. And once you become so good at it, that's when everything starts shifting in and you're moving everything else out of the way. Yeah. You know? So
I love that.
But it's funny because like in my classes and I don't know why I do this, but I'd be like always thinking I need to change it up and have something different for everybody. But then these like real strong lineages of yoga, they're just one practice. Yes. And that's it. They don't change. They have made this sequence and that's their sequence.
And if you think about it, I know that I probably would prefer a class where it was repeating the same sequence because you get into a flow. Yes. And you do notice where there's expansion in your posture and where you're able to deepen in a bit more one day and maybe not the next. And like, I just love that, even that how interconnected the breath is, because of course the breath is not separate from us, but you know how important the breath. You mentioned about the breath. There's 2 breath work practices.
And that 26 and 2,
because like your breath brings you, it's a journey into your body when you go into your breath, but how you can be holding yourself, and we've all done this, like you can be holding yourself and then you follow your breath and you're like, oh, right, and you can just deepen in that wee bit more. Like you can relax that wee bit more. Like, I know this is off subject, but like it's like when you go to the bathroom, do you ever do this during the night? You go to the bathroom and you're sitting there, and the next thing you're like, geez, I need to relax my shoulders. You're all in a bit like, because you're like all tense from lying, and you're like, oh geez, I need to relax and stretch out my shoulder blades or whatever. Like TMI, sorry folks, you know what I mean? Like,
I would repeat that a lot in class because people do forget to breathe, especially people maybe hasn't been to too many yoga classes and it's pretty new to them. Like, and sometimes people push themselves so hard because they see the person next to them doing something, so then they're not breathing, and then their whole body's tensing up, and everything just has become 10 times harder. You know, whereas if they just took it to their limit and kept their breath flowing, their body would naturally open up and they would actually move into it easier. I try to put that across as best as possible, but each individual's going to come and do what they're going to do anyway, you know. But I repeat that constantly through my class.
Even that in itself is such a journey of self-awareness.
Absolutely.
To stop worrying about the people around you and just stay in your own practice.
I would say, this is your practice. Forget about everybody else in the room. And if you do something and it doesn't feel right, just come out of it.
Yes.
You know, there's absolutely no pressure.
No pressure
here.
to sit. You're not meant to be in like agony pain.
No, you're that's the hamster. Then you're going against one of the the yamas. Like you know what I mean.
It's not the flow. That's not going to help your life force energy flow. If you're in pain, you're stopping it actually.
Aye.
You know, yeah, definitely. So what are the 2 breathwork practices as part of that 26?
The breathwork practice, they do one at the beginning. It's one I don't practice much myself unless I'm in a hot yoga class. But they put their hands in under here and they breathe up and they put the hands down so the head goes back and stuff. I don't even know what it's called, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't even know if it has a name. It might just be called deep breathing or something like that. And then the breath of fire, skull shining breath at the end.
Breath of fire's old, like it's old.
So I would do if I practice that one a lot myself. Like,
is there a practice that you have from? So we have the meditative part of yoga because you mentioned about your beads, the malas.
Yeah.
And you said how many times with mala beads?
It's 108.
And why is that? There's obvious, everything has meaning.
Absolutely.
So there's 108 for a reason.
There's 108. Now I think it's because the moon goes 108 times around the earth. It's something to do
astrological.
It's all to do with things beyond us and the universe and energies, and so they say that they do the 108.
So it's a cycle.
Yeah,
it's a 108-day cycle.
Yeah.
I think no, I'm not going to say that because that would probably be completely wrong.
I'm saying things and I'm going, oh God, is this even right information?
we'll drop the reason why in the caption, folks, for those of you watching. But so there's a practice, there's a meditative practice.
Yeah.
And then there's breath work. And then there is the asanas. I'm going to keep saying that wrong. Asanas. Out of all of those practices, what is your favorite part? What is the thing that brings you most into yourself? Or what you said was truth, wasn't it? It brings you into your truth.
Yes.
Which is past all the ego story of Claire.
Yeah.
You become no one. No name. You're no thing. You are just...
So there's 2. It'll either be a really strong asana practice or chanting. I just love chanting, and it was definitely India brought the chanting to me as well. That was definitely a takeaway from India. And kirtan, I never experienced kirtan before I went to India, so I bought myself a harmonium even when I was there. I've never played an instrument in my life, but I have a wonderful teacher now, and she's amazing. And I've been learning over a year now. I'm by no means amazing at it, but it's just it's just a self-practice at the minute. Like I haven't ventured out to share it with anybody else yet, but I absolutely love it.
I've seen you play, and it's just beautiful because, like you say, it is a self-practice. At the end of the day, that is dropping in, and I am very passionate about expression and sound and what that does as a practice when you get into that flow with sound. It's like even with the shamanic drum and singing with the drummer sounding, and it is chanting, I suppose, in a way, or just it's about a certain frequency, isn't it? When you sing in a certain frequency, and it unlocks something in the body, doesn't it?
And that's why I like to chant in the Sanskrit as well. Sanskrit's a vibrational language. It's so old. It's one of probably the oldest languages in the world. Like nobody really uses it anymore. Only within this world of yoga. Yeah, we use it for the name of they use it for chanting and all other things like that, and the names of the asanas and stuff. But we actually did a bit of that in India as well, because there's certain ways they pronounce, and it's not. So we see a word. So there's hatha yoga, but it's hatha yoga. Like because it comes from Devanagari. That's how the translation, that's what they use to translate it. And that's when the way we're taught. So it's there's like guttural, there's like different ways to put your tongue when you're saying certain words, and it's it's difficult, but fascinating. But like it's so interesting. But it's like all to do with your pronunciation, and it kind of has to be right because it's vibrational.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Aye.
What can you give us an example? So something I always like, this conversation is medicine. People will take from this pieces that works for them, and informational, of course, as well. But I always like to share a practice. Is there a practice you could introduce us to? Is there a mantra or?
Well, but say with before we were doing our mala beads, we do your bija mantra. So it's like one of them is Om Namah Shivaya, which I've already mentioned, and then that's the ego. But there's many more. Like if you're looking for something in particular, like to remove obstacles, or if you have certain things going on in your life that you feel like you want to shift some energy, you can go and find a certain mantra that'll help shift that certain energy.
Do you know one for removing obstacles?
Aye.
Can you share?
Ganesha Om Gangana Patiye Namaha.
Oh,
you might know it from songs.
Yes,
and
I
stuff.
hear it in songs all the time.
And it sounds like a mouthful, but when you start going with it, it actually just kind of Om Gangana Patiye Namaha, Om Gangana Patiye Namaha, and you'll just repeat that 108 times.
I think one of Sam Garrett's
songs. He has
them all.
He does loads of mantras in his music.
I love that one. Sukana Samasta. No.
Loka Samasta Sukino Bhavantu.
I love that one. It is gorgeous.
That's one of my favourites. I like, honest to God, I chant that so much myself. And that just means may all beings everywhere be happy and free.
Yeah,
like
so beautiful.
So beautiful. And it is one of my favourite ones.
It's there's a beautiful, I think we'll link her, folks, if I excuse me if it's not the correct name or pronunciation, but Deva Premal, DevaPremal or EL is the name. I must send you a wee link afterwards, but she sings these chants, or the group sings these chants, and it's just so beautiful.
It is. And if you ever get a chance to go to a kirtan, like my teacher, she does ones in Belfast once a month, and I've been up to a few of them, and it's just so. You're singing a song and they finish and they're like, you've just been singing that for 25 minutes, and it's just you're just repeating, but the energy just gets higher, and people could get up and start to dance and move around. Like when we were in India, the Talia organised a kirtan for us before we finished up. Like it was near the end of the training, and oh my God, the much fun we had just dancing around and just loving one another and just like being there, and it was just amazing.
And these words are medicine, and they have a frequency.
Used, as you say, like they're so ancient, so ancient.
It's spreading. Sound is like a wave, and it spreads out, and you feel it in the room. But what you're sharing is for the world. It's like saying your rosary for those that are Catholic.
Absolutely,
it's like saying
the same thing,
only it's beautiful
in a different. But like that, like I feel like if something works for you, that's what you do.
Yeah.
There's just something from the yoga philosophy that deeply resonates with me. I don't know what it is, and I don't know why, but like even when I hear things or I'm learning new things, I'm like, I feel like I already know it. And like where Talia, she would always say, you do already know it. We all already know it. We all already know everything. It's just uncovering it within yourself. Like our bodies are so intelligent. We are so intelligent beings, not even just our bodies, us as beings. Like there's just so much in there that we already know.
It's the interconnectedness of all life. Like even Lukaha Samasta, that is saying like, may all beings, we're all beings, we're all connected. Everything is connected. We're all like, our bodies are not separate from our environment or from each other. And the one mind, our mind, like I love the idea of like the hive consciousness. Like, and I mean, we've seen this with the power of the media and all the rest, how there is a collective consciousness and there is a shift that is happening. Hence why we're seeing this growth in awareness around connecting in to ourselves through meditation, mindfulness, yoga and all the rest. But I love that it's like, it's just reminding us that we're not separate. Like it's all an illusion, and you see it, you can literally feel and see it whenever you go to these like to a kirtan and you're speaking that, like, it's just love. At the end of the day, it's just unconditional love. And you're feeling it. And you're feeling it for every person in the room around you. You don't know them from Adam, but it's like you want to hug these people and show them and share with them this love, and they're sharing that with you. And it's like joy, just the joy to be alive, and the gift and the gratitude of remembering that. I love that word. I use it a lot. Breaking down the word remembering to remembering, like it's like we've been dismembered, or we believe we're dismembered, and we're remembering, we're all reconnecting again. And I love that.
There's a thing in yoga too called Dharma. Do you know if you ever heard tell of Dharma? No.
Share. Yeah. No, what is Dharma? Claire?
So your Dharma is like your life path, your so it's like the law, there's these laws in the universe, and it's like you're here for a reason. You're here maybe do whatever it might be. It might be one small act in your whole entire life, but you could be here, but you're here and you're trying to find your Dharma, you know. And it's like when it feels so good when you're doing, like me doing yoga, when I teach a class, I be floating out of there. Yeah. Even don't get me wrong, I'm human. There's nights I'm like, oh, I'm so tired tonight. And but when I go there and then somebody comes up to me at the end of the class and they're like, Claire, oh, I really needed that tonight. That was so good. I'm like, this is my Dharma. This is what I was supposed to do. Like, you know, and I have that knowing in me, and I have that feeling in me, and it feels right. Yes. And it might not last forever. I don't know. But for now, right now, this is definitely right for me right now. Yeah.
And so therefore it is right for you right now. And it's a journey. Yeah. Who knows where you'll end up. Absolutely. And where any of us will end up, or where we'll go. But I feel like it's just, if it's not this, it's a deepening in through. This is a gateway into another area, into another, like yourself. My journey has been one of this like flow, and things are presented to me. And funny, our last guest was saying the same thing, Stephanie. How, you know, every teacher that has came into her life has been presented to her. Yeah. And I'm the same. Everything that has come to me, like the womb work side of things, like it has been a journey. It's not like, I often talk to people about how the journey, I can see the road and I don't know what's on the other side of the horizon, but I know that it's there. I know that the divine is all, it is the path, and it is around me. It's everything I see and don't see. And it's the beyond this. It's everything. It's trusting in that you don't see, and just being in the now. Because like, who knows where we'll end up? But it doesn't even exist. The only thing that's real is right now. And that's what these practices do. That's what embodiment is. That's what even meditation is, even prayer. Like, it brings you back into the now. Absolutely. Quietens the mind and brings you into the now. And when you come into the now, everything disappears. It's so bizarre, isn't it? How it just goes, it's like almost like when you go to faint, you get that, you know, that like super focus. You like, whoa. Yeah. I love it so much.
I know. I always do this thing too between poses, and it's so funny because sometimes I think, does anybody else in this class even feel this, or is it just me? I know that imposter syndrome thing that comes in. It's like, are these people even understanding this? But like between each asana posture, sometimes I'm just like, just come stand, don't touch yourself, don't try to feel your feet on the ground, keep your eyes closed, and just feel under your body. And then them wee moments, they're so special to me.
That's the power layer.
Something is just stirring inside you, and again, it's that feeling that I can't explain. But I'm like, I just really hope that anybody that when I'm giving this out in class, that at least one person in there is feeling that feeling. Like,
definitely. And every day is different. Like, one day you'll feel it and the next day you don't. Might not. But that is why it's important to have routine and practice. It's called a practice because you show up every day in love and devotion to yourself, which is therefore in love and devotion to the divine, because you are God, you are the divine, we are the cup from the ocean, so to speak. And so when you take that time, you're going to keep finding it again. And when you find it, you're like, oh, guy, that's right. Now I remember. Now I remember. This is what pure bliss love and unconditional love is.
And it's so funny because, like, you get these blissful moments. You're like, oh, my God, life's amazing. This is So good. And
Thank you.
And then next thing is like, boom, you're back down again. You're like, oh, this again.
Yeah.
Do I really have to feel this way again?
Yeah, exactly.
But honestly, without them lows, there is no highs.
Exactly.
And I feel like with every low that comes, more growth comes with it also.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's taking you into places you haven't been before, and you're reaching, and seekers, that's what we are. Like, we're all seeking, we're looking, we're just trying to figure stuff out, you know?
I love that. Thank you for saying that, because I said it before, the only way out is through, and we have to contract to expand. Like, if we were expanded all the time, you don't, there's a Neil Donald Walsh, a great book called Conversations with God. I've talked about it before, and it's a beautiful book, but he created a book for children, and it was about the little soul, and the little soul wanted to know what it was just pure love and pure joy, like before we come here, so to speak. And it was like God was explaining to the little soul what it is to be the little soul, but it didn't understand. He was like, that's because you're like a flame of a candle held to the sun.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is because you're in the light all the time. And for you to really understand what it is to be the light, you have to come in and experience the dark. Like, how would we ever appreciate the sun if we had sun all the time?
Yes.
Well, you wouldn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the same, if we were in darkness all the time, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love that, because it is a journey. We have to fall out of it. We have to forget. We have to disconnect. We find the joy and the reconnection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I wonder, I do, and thank you for sharing that too about the imposter syndrome, because a lot of people do. If you are somebody that is a practitioner or a therapist or whatever, everybody thinks, oh, they've got their shit sorted. They have the practice nailed, you know. And that's just not the case.
That's not true at all. No. Even some days I'm teaching class, and like just like that, these wee thoughts are cropping out in my head, saying, they're all thinking, what is she talking about? Because I do yoga nidra as well, and especially through that, because obviously I understand it when I'm reading it out, and what I and my mind would like these people, the journey that they're on and the feelings that they're getting in there, and then I'm like, oh my God, are they thinking, what is she talking about? You know, but like at the same time, I have a full class every time I do one. So clearly,
your yoga nidra is beautiful. I loved it.
So people clearly do get something from it. Of course. But it's just me and my mind. It's like, you know, because you just want people to get and because they're paying as well, you want people to have take that experience and to be able to take something away from it, you know. If you've never tried yoga,
if you have never tried yoga and you want a beautiful entry into yoga nidra is just bliss, because you're just lying there and it's just like, oh my goodness, and you run it on a Friday night, and the space is beautiful, and there's candles lit, and I'm not sure, not everybody's yoga nidra may be like this, but you know, after a long week and you're just lying there and you're getting to just really actually be with yourself for an hour.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
It is.
So powerful, because you don't might make the space any other time to just be with yourself. Even if you lay
down to do one in the house, there's so many distractions. Yes. It's harder. Like, and like, I'm not saying you can't do that. You absolutely can. YouTube is full of yoga nidras. If you know, if you want to try it,
it's just not the same. See the energy of other people as well, and there is something about experience, something in a collective that just changes things.
That's why I love getting into classes myself. That's so important to me. I love getting into a yoga class, to be the student, not the teacher.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing like it.
And the community too. Like, you have a community now. I have a community. Yeah. You're meeting like-minded souls. You're, again, like this, me and you. Like, you find somebody and you're like, they resonate. They understand. And you can have a conversation that brings you joy and I don't know, it's fulfilling. It's fulfillment, isn't it? And that connection of being like, and it reminds you again, you know what I mean? It's that like, oh yeah, that's right. This is where I'm headed. This is where I want to hit if we're on this journey. And let's face it, anybody that's watching or listening or have been brought here for a reason. You've landed into this episode for a reason. Yes. You know what I mean? And you'll have your medicine from it, whatever it might be. It might be nothing to do with yoga. It could be something just, all right, those two women actually both practice these things but are going, oh, they fuck up too, or all right, okay, you have a friggin' what did you just call it again? The syndrome where you're like
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome
Yeah.
all day, every day. I'm on a podcast. Do I like being in front of a camera? No. Do I still be like, oh, is my hair okay? Do I look all right?
Yeah.
Yes. It's called being a human and
Yeah.
all of the ego story and all that's just, and then you get into the moment and you get past it all and
Yeah.
you remember what it's actually about.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's so fucking beautiful. I
Aye.
love it. That love. That's what it's all about.
To me, everything is love. Everything everything just boils down to love.
Yeah.
And that is what it comes down to.
Returning to source.
Aye.
Returning to remembering that we
Yeah.
are all love.
Love
Past
is
all the-
everything. Aye.
All the bullshit. Like, it's not about how you talk, where you're from, what you wear, how much you make, what you believe in. Past all that is just this being,
Yeah.
just like you. And they just want to be loved. And we want to feel love. And when we drop in and do these practices, we remember we are love.
Yeah.
Whole.
Yeah.
Complete.
And it's all there within you.
Yeah.
You don't even need to seek it outside of yourself. You know?
That's why I love these practices, because they do bring you back into that remembrance. Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much for being here. Before we finish, can
Can't
you
believe it's
just
over.
I know we've just skimmed the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more to talk about, but before we finish, if there was a saying or a practice that has been healing to you, like illuminating to you in your healing journey, what would it be?
Hari Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That is truth.
That is truth.
You are the truth.
You are the
Yeah.
truth. So it's literally what we were talking
Yeah.
about, past all the obstacles, because these are obstacles to us
Yeah.
connecting to that we are the truth.
Absolutely.
Oh, I like that. Say it again.
Hari Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat. And we'll have that if there are those of you watching. That's how you say it there. That's how it's written anyway. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And maybe in the future you'll come back and maybe have your harmonium
Yeah.
and sing us a wee
I'll sing us a wee
kirtan.
chant, aye.
Because I love that, and I just I really want to say I have found your journey so inspiring.
Thank you.
Like, truly, and even seeing you, because people don't realize that, we share sometimes on these social media platforms because you're trying to get the word out and share about certain things, especially if you're a practitioner yourself. But there are parts of these things that are private and personal and are sacred and holy and should be kept that way. And it's a fine line we dance about what do we share and what do we not share.
Yeah.
And I know that you probably danced that line about you sharing you doing your chants with your harmonium, but I'm so glad you did, because watching that was inspiring.
Yeah.
And I know you only did it once and it was one wee short story.
Yeah.
And I was so blessed, and I feel very honoured to be one of the people that watched that on your social media feeds. But it's something I feel like maybe in your future is coming, because it is not something that we get to experience in this part of the world, and it's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It does happen here, but it's in Belfast.
Yes,
or,
that's
you
what I
know
mean, in this
like,
area,
yeah.
in this area
And
where we are.
it's definitely
Yeah.
something I strive towards. I
Good.
feel like it's definitely part of the path, but I'm just not.
You're not there
I
yet.
need a guitar player or a drummer or something as well, maybe.
I can volunteer somebody who might be in this room. Guitar player there, Jason.
We get jamming. But because I've never played an instrument before, I think that's what's holding me back. I'm like, you're not experienced enough for this. Again, that
Imposter.
Yes, but no, it's definitely something I want to work towards, and because it just brings me so much joy, and even that wee video that I shared, the many people that reached out to me about it, I was actually shocked. I didn't think anybody would have even liked it, never mind
It was
even.
incredible.
And so many people were like, oh my God, I've got into chanting, I like chanting, and that then was like, Jesus, that was really good, you should do this more often.
Yes.
You know, but then I didn't. But definitely the growth from that is, it's coming.
It's coming. To be continued.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely part of your journey. I can see that clearly because of what. It's really hard to, again, we know we've said this before, it's really hard to put into words, but it really is. But it resonated. And I don't mean like, like heart to heart resonated as in I get it. I mean, the frequency of what you were actually chanting resonated in my body. I was like, I could listen to that. My body, I could feel it like in me. I was like, I need that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I hear you, and I hear you wanting the musical element, but this goes beyond that, like the frequency, because you have the words right, because you were taught it in India, and you have your phrasing right. That frequency is there because you felt it across the screen. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
And I really did, because I was like, I cannot wait to talk to you about this, because Jason, as you know, my husband's a musician, and we've created meditations before, and there's a lot of work with Indy looking at binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies. I think I've pronounced it right. You know, and he is massive into vibration frequency sound, and here's again thousands of years old practice that they know. It's like way off on a wee tiny tangent before we finish, but we went to a dark sky observatory, and again, apologies if I pronounce this wrong, the Barra Mountains, outside of Cookstown. So I'm looking at Jason going, am I right? The producer in the corner there. And they have a museum, and it's called the Museum, OM. And I'm like, you know, thinking of Sanskrit, you know, and these mantras, but is the sound of the universe.
Yeah, it's the primordial sound of the universe.
And I just like, there's sounds like like
even if you only ever chanted and nothing else, that's all you need to chant. If you want to like create something within yourself, om's enough.
And it's like we're talking about, you know, our fridge was buzzing, and how like this certain frequency, and it's like because it sounds like it's like, oh, it's so nice that sound. But it's crazy. It's just, I love it. I just feel like this is a medicine, and if you take one thing away from this conversation, folks, it is to hopefully even explore and chants and mantras. Yantras too? Is that one? No, maybe I just made that up. Did I?
Yantra. It sounds like a word, but I don't know what
no,
it is.
I probably just made that up. There's a new.
I'm not saying practice. It's nothing.
It might
it's
be.
Just nothing. I don't know.
Owning when your knowledge is limited. But no, thank you for sharing that, because again, like I say, sharing, it's so hard to find that balance and go, do I share this or not? Because it's sacred. But it's medicine too, and it was medicine for me. So thank you so much for sharing that in your story, and for sharing your story today. And I hope that our listeners and viewers, definitely take away something from today. And as always, before we finish, we always do a wee card pull. So I shuffled and Claire pulled, and it's from the the Psychic Oracle deck by John Holland. And the card we pulled today was mental conflict.
How ironic.
Shocker. So it says, and I hope this card's medicine and arrives in your ears exactly when you need it today. So this card deals with the inability to move forward as self-doubt emerges from indecisiveness or not being able to take action with a person, group, or even a situation in your present life. It may not be an easy decision, but you are already aware of this. Just remember that you have the strength, courage, and power to make all the necessary considerations. When you decide to act and finally make the choices that need to be made, then and only then will a resolution be forthcoming, and with it a sense of mental relief. There's assistance out there for you, so seek out and listen to wise counsel to help you make the right decisions. Listen to your intuition and have faith in yourself. peace and harmony will soon be yours. And that assistance, folks, is yoga. Listen, Claire, thank you so much again.
Thank
and I
you
just
for
want
having
to
me.
say I love you and I appreciate you. And from my heart and womb to yours, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to everybody else. Namaste.
Mm.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay.